Welcome back from the break, and it's too good to know you're still with us on the program. Good morning, Abuja, showing right now and right here only on the Unity Station. And to continue with our conversation segment, now we are going to look at child upbringing, the power to make your teenager act like an adult. And we have a specialist in effective communication and interactional human behavior in person of Ayegboka Saheed. Saheed, you're welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. You know, we all know that when it comes to child upbringing, a lot needs to be talked about, because when we say child upbringing, anything we put into these children, we are going to see the end result in future. And Amroba begins from a home. A president begins from a home. And it is a training inculcated into them that translate into what we are going to see in future. Now you are going to take us through the significance of child upbringing.
Well, child upbringing is extremely important and very significant, because the home, which is the family, is the first agent of socialization for a child. And whatever decision you make of that child at that age, from age 0 upward, decides nothing less than what that child becomes later on.
Sure.
And even science has validated that as we have our phones programmed, our laptops programmed, the cameras here programmed, human beings also programmed. So the programming period for a child is from age 0 to 7, according to Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is a neuroscientist. And so from age 0 to 7 is the most important part of any child's life. Whatever you deposit in that child's life constitutes the programming of that child. And like your camera here, whatever your camera is not programmed to do, no matter how much you try, that camera can't do it. So your children also, they are being programmed. And the same way your camera, the programming of your camera is something we can't see now. We just see it functioning. So the programming of a child also, you also can't see it. You will just see that child functioning, because those things later on will be deposited in the subconscious of that child. And the subconscious controls the conscious. So once your subconscious has agreed on something, your conscious manifests that particular thing. So basically, that is how important child upbringing is. And like I usually say, if you watch among the talks, the talks, one of their forefathers in the 13th century was Ertugrul. And at that time, they were fighting Mongols, fighting the Byzantine, the Constantinople, and basically fighting for survival. And the child, his son Usman, who later had established the Usmanic Empire, asked his father Ertugrul, said, "Daddy, out of all these works you have, which one is the most challenging? Which one is the most difficult?" His response was, "The most difficult work for me is being a father."
Wow.
So the same thing also when Barack Obama, the former head of state of president of the United States of America, when he was also asked that which work is the most challenging work that you have, he said it's being a father. And imagine he only has 2 daughters, but that is the most challenging job. So why, he was asked, why is it the most challenging job? He said, because that's the only job you can't delegate. So one of the major problems we have is that we delegate parenting to housemates. We delegate parenting to those we can't even employ in our own establishment. We think that we can parent in proxy. We can be in a place and be parenting those children. We do not see parenting as something that has an intrinsic value, that time needs to be dedicated to it. And if you find out those that are successful and their success has been generational, you will find out that they spend time on their children. They spend time in establishing their children. If you study a book like written by Michael Hart, The 100, the 100 most influential people in the world's history, you will find out that the first 10 or even the first 15 there, they were people of knowledge, and they acquired the knowledge, they implemented the knowledge, they shared the knowledge, and part of those that got the knowledge from them the most were their children and others. So if you check, the first person he listed there was the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Prophet Muhammad. The second person he gave to Isaac Newton. The third person he gave to Jesus Christ of Nazareth. The fourth person he gave to Buddha. The fifth person he gave to Confucius. The sixth person he gave to Paul. The seventh person he gave to Kowloon, the person that invented the paper. The eighth person he gave it to Johann Gutenberg, the person that established printing press. The ninth person he gave to Christopher Columbus, the Italian explorer that discovered America. The 10th person he gave to Albert Einstein. If you check all of them, they were people, you will see the investment of their parents in their lives. Their parents or their guardian took charge of their lives. That was how they became so influential and remarkable. So for if you want your child to be remarkable, you need to make that child a child you spend time with, a child, because your presence alone does a lot of things. Someone like Imam Bukhari, who was said to have written so many books, you will discover he learned first from the mother. So the mother, the father, they are the hallmark of every child. So if you see a child, that child is exposing who the parents are.
This conversation is becoming very interesting to me at this point. Now you talk about delegating parenting to house help, and because the world has evolved, the father is working, the mother is working, the children are there, we are delegating the responsibility to house help. What do we do?
Okay, between it's just for us to check priorities. Between, for example, if your car gets spoiled and you need your car fixed, you take it to a mechanic's workshop, right? Will you say because you are busy, you are this, you are that, then you will now delegate it to your chef? No. Parenting, and nobody loves your child the way you should love your child. So spending time with that child is it's about, like Simon Sinek usually say, that everything comes at a cost. The cost that I'm here today is that I did not sleep well in the night, because I knew I had a program, it was on my mind. So that was a cost for me. So I checked it, coming to NTA, sleeping, which one is better? Coming to NTA is better. So that is a cost. The cost that you are here is that probably you still be on bed now. So that is a cost. So you need to check the money I'm trying to acquire outside there. At what cost am I acquiring them? For example, you're a bank manager. Let's say you're a bank manager, your husband is also a politician. Both of you are looking for money to have a standardized life for your children, live in an estate, probably live in a semi-detached duplex, or even in a mansion. You want 5 cars, so that those things are good things, but at what cost? At the cost of the children. So you just need to ask yourself that question, like Simon Sinek used to say, at what cost do you acquire all these things? Do you need all these things to survive in the actual sense of it? If your parent had also prioritized those things ahead of you, probably you want a private university, you want to send the child abroad. Those are luxuries, they are good. But in the actual sense of it, what we need and not so much is what we want that is so expansive, and we take those time of the children. So it's just to understand that what Warren Buffett called the intrinsic value and the instrumental value. An instrumental value is something that is a means to an end, like money. If they lock us here with 5 billion naira, and we are unable to go out, that money is useless because it's a means to an end. We can't spend it. But if they put food and water here and they lock us up here, we are able to eat when we are hungry, we are able to drink when we are thirsty. That has an intrinsic value. So check, your job only has an instrumental value. While your children, they have an intrinsic value. So you can't leave something that has an intrinsic value for something that has an instrumental value. It's like you are going for an interview in the United States of America, and you are just focused on the time you spend on the plane, how you are going to eat, what you are going to drink, the kind of clothes you are going to wear. Those things have instrumental value. But the actual interview you are going for, you did not prepare for it. And that is something that has an intrinsic value. So we know getting money for the children is important, this, but you need to get them and spend more time with those children, because if not, the house you've built with that money, those children will end up selling it. We know a lot of parents now in Abuja that they are on stroke, they are paralyzed, and it's because of the problem from the children. They send these children to 4-5 continents, 3-4 continents to go and study. They can't study, they need to come back to the country wasted. Some of them are now abusing drugs. Why? Because you were not at home to pay attention. I know of the son of someone in the military that said he started smoking at the age of 7. Why? The father leaves him with the orderlies and he travels, and when those ones send him to go and buy cigarettes, he buys an extra one, smoke on the road, and now that child is giving them problem. If you were present, you would have noticed that it seems something is wrong. So those are some of the most important things we need to. At what cost? Instead of driving a 5 million car, you want to drive a 50 million car. At what cost? At the cost of your children, that you won't spend time with those children. And what those children turn out to be will be your greatest investment, either positive or negative in the world.
Wow. Well, taking this discussion further, how does upbringing affect the behavior of our children? We know we have adult children now. The power to make a teenager look like an adult.
Okay.
Yes.
I think one of the books that I will recommend for Nigerians to read about child upbringing is a book written by Dr. Ibrahim Duba titled Tell Don't Yell. And inside that book, there's a chapter where he said, who is an adult? And under that chapter, he specifically quoted Julie Lycott Hames, who is a modern psychologist. And she also wrote a book called Your Turn, How to Become an Adult. That's the title of the book, Julie Lycott Hames. And according to traditional psychologists, they say an adult is someone, some posited that an adult is someone who has a job. Some said an adult is someone who is married. Some said an adult is someone who no longer lives with his parents. Some say an adult is someone who has graduated from school. Some say an adult is someone who has children. But in the midst of all this, because of time, Julie Lycott Hames said, according to our own research, an adult is simply defined in quotation. He who fends for himself is an adult. So if you fend for yourself, you're an adult. So we need to quickly groom our children to quickly fend for themselves. As early as possible. Why? Number one, you, the parent that they are dependent on, that they depend on, you won't be here forever. Yes. I've known children that their parents were very stupendously wealthy. Those parents died, the wealth crumbled, and now they are paupers. So you need to know that you won't be here for a long time, and you don't even know when you are leaving. Number two is for you to make them dependent on God, that they should just focus on God, that God, you alone will worship and you alone will seek for help. Number three is for you also to be able to believe in your ability. A lot of parents now, they are suffering from baby adults, children that are grown but still they still behave like babies. Why? Because they can't fend for themselves. Being able to fend for yourself is number one. You need to take charge of time management. You need to acquire a skill. You need to take responsibility. You need to be accountable. These are some of the integral aspects that you need to inculcate within yourself for you to become an adult. For you to be able to fend for yourself, fending for yourself means you have the ability to clothe yourself, to shelter yourself, to feed yourself. So until you have that standing, you are not yet an adult, even if you are 100 years old.
You know, this child upbringing, I know it's a very broad topic, and we have so many things under it that we really need to talk about. But there is one very crucial question I want to ask you before you go. What are the most challenging parts in raising up a child? You know, it's very important.
Yeah, I think the most challenging part is you spending time there. The presence of a child, the presence of a parent alone sends away a lot of problems. So, like I said, proxy parenting will not work. So, and the most important time you need to spend with them is from age 0 to 7. That is why in a place like Finland, Finnish citizens, you don't start school until you are 6.
Wow.
So, and their model of schooling is extremely different from our model of schooling. Schooling is only compulsory for 16 years of your life. You don't even need to go to have a degree, because once you are done with what equates to secondary school, there are professional schools. If it's camera handling you want to go for, you go and learn in 2 years and things like that. Why they start school by 6 is because you need to program a child. You know, when you give birth to a child, you teach the child how to even milk from the mother. You teach the child how to walk. You teach the child, I think the only thing they don't teach a child is how to cry. So you need to teach that child almost all these things. You are programming that child. Those are things that they will say human being speaks, but that child can't speak. So that child does not qualify as a full human being. So you need to program that child that when adversity, when frustration, when, if you teach, for example, right from childhood, if you've taught a child that when somebody gives you something, you say thank you. You've taught that child gratitude, and you monitor that. And one of the biggest problems we do in parenting is that we do not create an environment where we tell children the right things to do. We wait until they make a mistake, then we yell at them. Don't you know you should greet that person? And science and studies, science and studies have validated that we see yelling as punishment. So the child feels like, you've punished me, so I can repeat it. So we need to tell, don't yell.
Okay.
You need to tell your child, when somebody gives you something, you say thank you. When somebody mashes your leg, you don't need to shout at that person. Just correct the person that mashes somebody's leg is wrong. You tell. That one, they take lessons from it than rather complaining and shouting and waiting till the time that a problem is there is a problem before you correct.
Okay, your final words to the parents, the caregiver on this issue of child upbringing.
Well, what I would just say is that now you might feel free that you are doing your best for that child and you are not spending time. You are not learning about how to parent. You are not attending workshops. You are not reading books about parenting. Just rest assured, the greatest unrest you will have also will come from that child.
Sure.
And a lot of people are already there. And like an historian said, the only thing we've ever learned from history is that man has never learned from history. So if you want to learn from history, and it's good to learn from other people's mistakes, because some mistakes that you will make can even be fatal. So let's learn from others that are suffering from this problem now so that we don't commit the same problem.
Wow, thank you so much for taking out your time to come talk to us. Very important on child upbringing this morning. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mom.
All right. Yes, we have been speaking with Ayek Bukar Sahid, and he is a specialist in effective communication and interactional human behavior. And together we looked at child upbringing, and he has talked to us extensively on how to raise up our children to fit into the society. Now let's go on this quick break. We'll be right back after now.